Wounded alien captain, tried to end it all, human salvager had other plans for her. The violet dusk swept over the jagged ridges of Arcadia 4, carrying the scent of scorched alloys and the echoes of lost empires. Marcus's boots crunched on glassy gravel as he approached the derelict science station, his every step sending up tiny sparks of light where the pebbles fractured beneath his weight. He held the sensor wand out before him, its green pulse quickening with each stride, tracking the energy spike that had lured him across kilometers of ravaged wasteland. Here, on the forgotten edge of civilization, the ruins waited, hiding secrets worth more than gold. He halted at the lip of a broken embankment, shifting his battered satchel to balance the weight across his back. The dry wind tugged at the battered hem of his coat, carrying distant, metallic cries. Just as he adjusted his footing, a glimmer of blue snagged his attention, so vivid against the indigo sky, it seemed almost unreal. He blinked. There, on the crumbling platform, stood a solitary figure, so perfectly still she might have been carved from stone. Her silhouette was outlined by the last rays of violet sunlight, her form draped in a tattered medical robe, thin fabric whipping in the wind. But it was the living detail that held him. Her skin a deep cerulean, etched with glowing traceries of light that shifted beneath the surface in slow, sorrowful pulses. Rose-pink hair, unbound and wild, spilled down her back, catching the dying light in a halo of color. Her luminous eyes watched the horizon with a haunted intensity, reflecting both the sky and some silent agony inside her. Marcus's heart clenched at the pain etched in her face, a grief so raw it made him ache. He cleared his throat, voice low and careful. "Hey, please, don't do it." Her fin-like ears flicked at the sound, delicate membranes quivering. She turned, movement fluid and inhumanly graceful, and the full force of her gaze hit him. There was exhaustion there, yes, but also a weary strength, a refusal to look away from suffering. "You shouldn't be here," she said, her voice a blend of melody and emptiness, echoing in the gathering dark. "This place is haunted by too many memories." Marcus stepped forward, hands open and empty, posture non-threatening. "So am I, but that's no reason to give up." For a heartbeat, she simply stared, as if seeing him for the first time. Surprise flickered in her luminous eyes, quickly hidden beneath wary resignation. "You can't help me. I'm ruined, beyond hope." He gestured at the wasteland around them, at the shattered station and the bones of forgotten machines jutting from the earth. "Everything here is broken. That's why it's worth saving." She straightened, pride flaring in her bearing despite the tremble in her limbs. "I was Lysara, captain of the Nova Guard. I led fleets across 5 galaxies." Her voice cracked with old authority, dulled now by pain. "Now I can barely stand." Marcus's mind catalogued her injuries, the way her left leg favored her right, the network of scars like constellations on her arms, the haunted shadow in her eyes. But it was her courage that drew him closer, a flicker of stubborn hope amid ruin. He offered a crooked smile. "Marcus, human, salvager, fixer of lost causes." Their eyes met, and for a moment the world stilled, dusk and wind and ruin holding its breath. There was a pull between them, something outside the reach of logic or gravity, a recognition that sparked beneath the skin. "There's nothing left to fix," Lysara whispered, voice so small he almost missed it. He took another step, voice gentle but firm. "Maybe not for you, but I'm not done trying." He reached out slowly, giving her every chance to refuse. When she didn't flinch, his rough, calloused fingers brushed against hers. Her skin was unexpectedly warm, tingling with an energy that leapt from her nerves to his. The contact sent a jolt through both of them. Possibility, recognition, the sudden ache of hope. "Come with me," Marcus urged, his thumb tracing her knuckles, grounding them both. "Let's see what broken things can become." Lysara's breath hitched. She stared at the abyss beyond the platform, then at his hand, trembling between decision and despair. Finally, with a shuddering sigh, she stepped away from the edge. The wind tangled her tattered robe with Marcus's coat, binding their shadows together as if fate itself had woven them from the same cloth. Inside the science station, the air was heavy with silence and the faint whir of dying power cores. Walls streaked with soot and old circuitry closed around them, the floor littered with the ghosts of abandoned machinery. Marcus led the way, his sensor wand guiding them through dark corridors. Lysara stumbled, her legs shaking with the effort of moving. Without hesitation, Marcus slipped his arm around her waist. The contact was electric, a current running beneath her skin, surging through him. She was lighter than he expected, fragile as spun glass. But there was strength there too, coiled beneath exhaustion. He guided her through the maze, past collapsed med bays and shattered hollow screens, until they reached the infirmary. He eased her onto a battered cot, the springs groaning under her weight. In the dim glow of emergency lights, he knelt beside her, hands gentle as he brushed aside her hair and examined the scars mapping her body, stories of war and survival written in flesh and light. "Tell me what happened," he said, voice softer now, edged with compassion and curiosity. Lysara stared at the ceiling, blinking away memories. "My mentor, Commander Voss, he betrayed us, led the Nova Guard into an ambush. I tried to fight, to save them, but he left me to die on my burning flagship." The neural damage was too severe. She touched the side of her head, where the tracery of lights flickered erratically. Even Aurelian medicine failed. Marcus rummaged through his satchel, pulling out a jumble of scavenged tech. Wires, micro-tools, cracked data pads, things he'd patched together over years of wandering. "Aurelian science couldn't do it," he said, voice bright with stubborn optimism. "But maybe human improvisation can. Sometimes it takes a different perspective to see the solution." Lysara's eyes flickered with the first glimmer of hope she'd allowed herself in months. "Why do you care about a broken Aurelian soldier?" He reached for her hand, covering it with his own. "Because broken things know each other," Marcus said softly. "Together, they can be stronger than before." The infirmary hummed with promise and possibility, the old machinery singing faintly of hope. Marcus's fingers found hers, and neither let go. In the heart of ruin, a new story began. The makeshift workshop Marcus set up in the engineering bay was a tangle of wires, hybrid tech, and glowing crystals. He worked with intense focus, shoulders hunched over a battered workbench, the metallic tang of solder and ozone thick in the air. The walls pulsed with the pale blue light of scavenged Aurelian capacitors, casting shifting shadows across his determined face. Lysara watched from the edge of the room, transfixed by the deft precision of his hands as he coaxed fragile life from the detritus of two worlds. Sparks danced as Marcus fused a filament of liquid silver to a core of crystallized graphene. He muttered calculations under his breath, adjusting the power couplings with a careful flick of the wrist. Lysara's gaze lingered on the set of his jaw, the steady rhythm of his breath, the way confidence seemed to radiate from him as he stitched together hope from broken things. Marcus set down his soldering wand, examining his handiwork. The device was a strange and beautiful thing, a mesh of slender filaments woven with Aurelian biofiber, interlaced with human circuitry, delicate as a spider's web. It pulsed with a faint inner light, resonating in time with Lysara's own heartbeat. "The neural channels in your spine, they're dormant, not destroyed," Marcus explained, voice warm but matter-of-fact. "This device should reactivate them, enhance them." He turned the harness in his hands, careful not to disturb the array of microsensors that lined its base. Each piece had been chosen for purpose and possibility. Lysara moved closer, drawn by the quiet force he exerted over the chaos of the workshop. She caught the glint of sweat on his brow, the faint tremor in his fingers that betrayed the toll of sleepless hours. "It's beautiful," she murmured, not sure if she meant the device or the man. Marcus glanced up, smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. "Let's hope it works as well as it looks." He straightened, wiping his brow with the back of his hand, and Lysara saw a depth in his eyes, a resilience forged from years of surviving in the cracks between worlds. "I need to calibrate the fit," he said, voice gentle as he knelt beside her. His hands hovered, waiting for her permission. Lysara drew a breath, then nodded, a single, decisive motion. Marcus's palms settled lightly on her back, fingertips barely brushing the fabric of her robe, tracing the faint patterns of her scars. Each touch sent a ripple of warmth through nerves long dulled by pain. "The interface must be exact," he murmured, eyes focused, breath fanning across her neck as he measured the distance between vertebrae, the rise and fall of her hips. "Just tell me if anything hurts." Lysara closed her eyes, surrendering to the trust that had taken root between them. His hands glided down the length of her spine, mapping the subtle ridges of Aurelian bone. Her fin-like ears pressed back, betraying the emotion welling within her. She felt the heat of him, steady, real, anchoring her against the drift of memory. "Marcus," she breathed, his name soft as a prayer, a lifeline in the storm. He paused, looking up at her, their faces close enough that she could count the flecks of gold in his irises. "This is risky," she warned, her voice unsteady, but she did not pull away. "If you're wrong, everything worth having is," Marcus replied, thumb brushing a long, pale scar that traced the curve of her thigh. His eyes held hers, unwavering. "Is it worth it to you?" She hesitated, the weight of past betrayals pressing down. Then she reached out, fingers threading through the stubble at his jaw, finding the pulse at his neck. "You're worth the risk," she whispered, voice trembling with something that felt like hope. In that charged instant, before reason or fear could intervene, Lysara leaned in. Her hand guided him closer, until their lips met, a hesitant, searching kiss that deepened as longing surged between them. The taste of him was unfamiliar and electric, a promise of new beginnings and ancient stars. Marcus's hands tightened on her waist, pulling her closer, anchoring her to the moment. Lysara's barriers crumbled, replaced by a fierce yearning she'd thought extinguished with her old life. For a while, there was only the hush of breath and the steady thrum of the workshop's power grid. When at last they parted, foreheads touching, both of them were breathless, hearts pounding in tandem. Marcus's fingers lingered on her side, as if reluctant to break the connection. "I should finish the suit," he said, voice rough with emotion. "Yes," Lysara replied, but neither of them moved immediately. They lingered in the closeness, the air charged with all that had passed unspoken between them. Outside, the wind raged against the hull, rattling loose panels and howling through ruined corridors, a reminder of the world's indifference. But here, surrounded by invention and the quiet miracle of second chances, Marcus and Lysara found something to fight for. The exo harness awaited on the bench, humming with promise, like the bond growing between its maker and the woman who would wear it. In that fragile, flickering light, hope took on a shape both strange and beautiful, ready to be claimed. The exo harness gleamed in the harsh light, a seamless blend of function and beauty, every curve and panel catching the pale fluorescence overhead. Marcus had labored through the night, sweat running down his temples, hands moving with urgent care and the kind of precision born of necessity. Now, with the workbench cleared and cables coiled away, Lysara stood before him in a fitted underlayer, her tall form outlined by the glow of neural connectors running along her spine and down her limbs. The faint blue of her skin seemed to pulse in time with the harness's ambient light. Marcus cradled the spinal array in his hands, a complex weave of biofiber and alloy, humming with potential. The scent of ozone and machine oil clung to the air. "Ready?" Marcus asked, his voice quiet but steady, though his heart hammered in his chest. Lysara drew a breath, her rose-pink hair falling forward as she nodded and turned her back to him. The silence stretched, heavy with anticipation. Marcus's hands shook as he lifted the array, lining up the delicate prongs to the neural ports embedded in her vertebrae. Every motion was intimate, charged. His fingers brushed her bare back, each touch sending shocks through both of them. He pressed the array into place, listening for the soft click as each neural link latched home. A surge of blue-white light flickered down the length of her spine. Lysara arched, her body tensing, and a gasp escaped her lips. Sharp, involuntary. The harness came alive, sensors pulsing, as her damaged pathways flooded with sensation. "It's like waking up from a dream," she whispered, voice ragged, as her eyes fluttered open, pupils dilating with wonder and disbelief. Marcus swallowed, watching the readings flicker across the harness's control panel. Satisfied, he knelt beside her and took the first leg module. Sleek, jointed metal, wrapped in bioreactive mesh. He fastened it around her thigh, then her calf, feeling her muscles tremble beneath his touch. The servos hummed, syncing with her nerves in a gentle cascade of light. "You're doing great," he murmured, moving to her other leg, securing the harness in place. "The exosuit's reading your signals now. Try walking." Lysara hesitated, looking down at her legs as if seeing them for the first time. She took a tentative step, the servos whispering with her movement. Her toes curled against the floor, testing balance, and she took another step, stronger, surer. Marcus watched, breath held, as Lysara straightened to her full height, shoulders squaring. She strode across the room, the warrior reborn, her every movement smooth and powerful. "Marcus, you did it!" she cried, voice full and alive. She turned, joy radiating from her, and in an instant she was across the space between them, her arms wrapped around him, pulling him close. The kiss that followed was fierce, gratitude and joy tangled together, a promise made with lips and breath, with hope restored. Marcus held her tightly, his hands pressed to her back, feeling the faint thrum of the harness beneath her skin. For a heartbeat, nothing existed but the two of them and the miracle they had built together. But the moment was shattered by the shriek of engines outside, a banshee wail slicing through the fragile peace. Marcus's instincts sharpened, years of scavenging and survival snapping him to attention. He pulled back, his body tense, eyes flicking to the doorway as the sound crescendoed. Ships, landing close. Aurelian patrol vessels, by the pitch and resonance. Lysara's expression hardened, all traces of vulnerability vanishing. Armored troops spilled from the dropships, their heavy boots sending tremors through the station's metal bones. At their head strode a tall figure, augmented and imposing, exosuit gleaming beneath the bristling lines of command. "Voss!" Lysara spat, her voice a low, venomous growl. Marcus's hand went to the blaster holstered at his hip. "Your old commander?" he asked, already strategizing, already searching for cover and choke points in the engineering bay. "He left me to die," Lysara answered, voice cold as the void. "They must have embedded a tracker during my treatment." Marcus's gaze darted to the monitors. He could see the patrols fanning out, weapons drawn, moving with ruthless precision. The station was defensible, but not for long. He didn't see a victim in Lysara. He saw a fighter, restored and ready. "How many?" he asked, checking the charge on his blaster and the integrity of the barricades. Lysara's eyes narrowed, calculating. "Voss, his adjutant Kira, and a strike team. They want to finish what they started." The sound of forced entry echoed from the main corridor, a hiss of plasma torches, the grind of metal pried open. Marcus's heart pounded, adrenaline sharpening his senses. He tossed Lysara a compact pulse rifle from his kit, She caught it with practiced ease, cycling the safety off. "They're coming," Marcus said, moving to the access panel to lock down the bay. "We can hold them here for a while." Lysara gripped the rifle, her newly restored strength obvious as she checked the harness's combat interface. "We're not just holding, Marcus. We're going to drive them out." He shot her a crooked grin, the two of them standing back to back as the first heavy footfalls thundered closer. "Let's give them a fight they'll remember." A slow, dangerous smile spread across Lysara's face, her eyes glowing like twin stars. "Together," she said, the word a promise and a challenge. "Together," Marcus echoed, his voice steady. The door buckled and exploded inward, a flash of blue light and a spray of hot metal. Armored figures surged in, rifles raised. Marcus fired first, dropping to one knee and sending a bolt into the chestplate of the nearest trooper. Lysara moved with the predatory grace of a born commander, the exo harness amplifying every movement, her shots precise and devastating. Voss stepped through the smoke, flanked by his adjutant, a woman with sharp features and cold, calculating eyes. He sneered, his augmented body radiating menace. "Lysara," he called, voice echoing. "I see you found new company to disappoint." She didn't flinch. "You always underestimated me, Voss. That ends now." Blaster fire lit the engineering bay, painting the walls with streaks of light. Marcus ducked behind a support strut, covering Lysara as she advanced, her movements a symphony of muscle and machine. Together, they carved a path through the strike team, supporting each other with instinctive ease, one covering, one advancing, always connected. Kira tried to flank them, but Marcus anticipated the move, lobbing a flash grenade that sent the adjutant stumbling. Lysara pressed her advantage, closing the distance and disabling two troopers with a spinning kick powered by the harness. The machinery sang with every strike, blue light flaring at each impact. Voss bellowed in rage, charging forward, but Lysara met him head-on, the pulse rifle dropping empty as she drew a blade from Marcus's belt. Metal rang against augmented bone. Sparks flew. Marcus took out the last of the strike team, then spun to see Lysara and Voss locked in a brutal struggle. For a moment, time slowed. Lysara's eyes found Marcus's, and he nodded. Silent support. She twisted, using the harness's enhanced strength to wrench Voss's arm, forcing him to his knees. "You can end this," Marcus called, voice steady. Lysara hesitated, then released Voss with a shove. "No more death," she said, voice ringing clear. "We're done with you." Marcus moved to her side, blaster ready as the battered survivors retreated, dragging Voss and Kira with them. The station fell silent, broken only by the soft hum of the harness and their shared breath. They stood together amid the wreckage, two survivors bound by battle and something deeper. As the first attackers had appeared, they had moved as one, fighting not just for survival, but for each other. The utility tunnels beneath the station twisted in darkness, walls slick with condensation and scarred by the passage of countless cables. Marcus moved first, weapon raised, each step careful and deliberate on the uneven metal grating. The narrow confines forced Lysara close behind, her exo-harness emitting a steady, low hum that vibrated through the floor and up into his bones. Their shoulders brushed in the gloom, the heat of her body a wordless reminder of all they risked for each other. He paused at a junction where a pale emergency light flickered, casting their elongated shadows against the pipes overhead. He glanced back, voice a whisper barely louder than his breath. "We can reach the comm tower here. Might be able to signal a rescue if we're lucky." A faint tremor traveled through Lysara's hand as she gripped his arm, halting him. "No," she said, her tone urgent, eyes glowing softly in the half-light. "Voss isn't here for rescue. He's after something else." Marcus frowned, every muscle tensing with wariness. "What?" Lysara's ears flattened in distress, the subtle bioluminescence along her jaw dimming. "The Arkan relics, the real reason for the Nova Guard's mission. Ancient tech, weapons of unimaginable power." Voss started the war to get them. I learned the truth as my ship burned, Marcus. That's why he needs me alive. He thinks I can lead him to the vault. Footsteps echoed above, the rhythmic stomp of armored boots closing in. Marcus's grip tightened on his blaster. He pressed Lysara back into a narrow alcove, both of them shrouded by shadow and the scent of engine oil. The tracker. It's embedded in your neural net, isn't it? Marcus asked quietly, searching her face for confirmation. Lysara nodded, guilt swimming in her luminous eyes. Every time the suit powers up, it pings our location. I'm sorry, Marcus. I brought them here. I should have told you, but... He reached out, fingers brushing her cheek, grounding her with his touch. You could have told me. She swallowed, her voice cracking. Would you have helped? A crooked grin broke through his grim resolve. I probably would have worked faster. He let the moment linger, his thumb tracing the line of her jaw. I don't quit on impossible odds. The corridor trembled as a new sound joined the pursuit. The whine and click of plasma rifles charging, their threat unmistakable. Lights swept the far end of the tunnel. Time was bleeding away. Marcus's mind raced through options. The reactor core, he said, voice low and urgent. If we overload it, draw them in, we might create enough chaos to slip away through the mining shafts. The backup vents open to the ridge. They'd never expect it. Lysara stared at him, awe and fear mingling in her gaze. It's madness, she breathed. We might not make it. The core could go up before we're clear. He offered a half smile, eyes fierce in the glow of the emergency light. Everything worth doing is. Is it worth it to you? For a heartbeat, neither spoke. Then Lysara surged forward, grabbing the collar of his jacket and kissing him, hard, fierce, desperate. The contact was electric, a vow forged in the dark. Her hand trembled on his neck, the edges of her desperation softened by hope. Whatever happens, meeting you was worth it. Marcus's heart thundered. He squeezed her hand, grounding them both. Let's make sure we get more tomorrows, he whispered. The plasma whine grew louder, echoing from the main corridor. Marcus jerked his head toward a side tunnel. Come on, we have to move. They slipped through the labyrinth, feet echoing on the metal grates. The exo harness amplified Lysara's stride, her steps growing surer with every meter. Marcus led them past old maintenance bots, rusted and forgotten, past ruptured pipes leaking streams of coolant that misted the air. Behind them, the shouts of Voss's strike team bounced off the walls, a hunt that grew closer with every breath. They reached a hatch sealed with a biometric lock. Marcus knelt, pulling a cracked datapad from his satchel, splicing wires with practiced urgency. Buy me a minute. Lysara pivoted, pulse rifle raised, her senses on high alert. From down the tunnel, harsh voices barked orders in Aurelian, Voss's voice among them, cold and commanding. The datapad chirped. The lock disengaged with a hiss. Marcus wrenched the hatch open and ushered Lysara through. The reactor core loomed ahead, a cathedral of steel and humming energy. Panels blinked with warning lights, the heart of the station beating with dangerous power. Set the overload, Marcus said, crossing to the control console. I'll trigger the alarms, draw them all here. Lysara's hands flew across the controls, her mind half Aurelian, half machine now, reading the ancient code with ease. 3 minutes to cascade, she murmured. We'll have to move fast. Above them, a heavy clang signaled the approach of Voss's team. Marcus worked quickly, rerouting the alarms, locking down escape routes that didn't lead to the mining shafts. He looked at Lysara. Ready? She nodded, fire in her eyes. I trust you. Sirens wailed, red lights flooding the reactor chamber. Through the glass, Marcus saw the armored silhouettes of Voss and his soldiers pouring in, weapons ready. Go, he shouted, grabbing Lysara's hand. They sprinted for the maintenance ladder at the far end, Lysara's exo harness boosting her speed. Blaster bolts ricocheted off the walls, filling the air with ozone and sparks. Voss's voice thundered after them. Lysara, you can't run from what you are. She didn't look back. Marcus hauled open a service hatch, revealing a narrow shaft lined with mining rails. "In here," he urged, letting her climb first. He followed, sealing the hatch behind them. The walls vibrated with the growing power of the overloaded core. They crawled through the shaft, barely room to breathe, the world behind them coming apart at the seams. Lysara led now, her path clear, every movement purposeful. As the first tremors shook the metal around them, Marcus reached for her hand. "Almost there," he breathed, voice full of hope and grit. Together they hurried toward the core, two souls facing the impossible, chasing freedom, driven by the promise of a future they refused to surrender. The reactor chamber glowed with shifting light, energy arcing over exposed metal conduits like the ghostly fingers of a storm. Power pulsed in the air, thick with ozone and the metallic scent of imminent catastrophe. Marcus stood at the main control console, his brow beaded with sweat, fingers flying across cracked screens as he rerouted coolant flows and dropped containment protocols. Warning sirens bellowed in a rising chorus, red strobes painting his face with fire. Lysara was a sentinel near the door, exo harness humming, every muscle taut and ready. Her eyes swept the chamber, rifle raised, stance braced to absorb anything that might break through. The glow of the reactor painted her cerulean skin in fierce colors, making her look more than human, an avenging force shaped by war and hope. "How long?" she called, her voice steady over the alarms. 2 minutes to overload," Marcus answered, not looking up. He jabbed at another control, watching coolant levels plummet. "We need every second." A deep thud shook the far wall. Lysara's finger tightened on the trigger. The door exploded inward in a storm of sparks and smoke. Voss strode in, tall and terrible, half his face replaced with gleaming chrome. His remaining organic eye burned with fury, but it was the artificial one, cold and blue as a glacier, that searched the room, calculating every detail. Behind him, Kira advanced, twin energy blades hissing, her expression twisted in anticipation. "The tracker worked," Kira sneered, her blades spinning. "We expected to find a corpse, not a show." Marcus snapped his blaster up and fired. Voss dove for cover behind a reactor manifold, returning shots that seared the air, blue-white plasma eating holes in the consoles. The room erupted in chaos, blaster fire, ricocheting energy, the shriek of abused machinery. Marcus and Lysara were driven apart, forced to opposite ends of the chamber by a hail of death. "You're still as broken as when I left you," Voss taunted, his voice echoing across the reactor's roar. Lysara ducked behind a console, the exo harness amplifying her movements, reflexes sharpened by adrenaline. "Not broken," she snarled, eyes blazing. "Remade!" She surged up, firing a burst that clipped Kira's shoulder and sent her spinning. Kira recovered in a heartbeat, launching herself at Lysara. Energy blades flashed, trailing lightning. Lysara met her head-on, rifle clashing with blade, each impact sending sparks spiraling away. Kira's attacks were precise, deadly, but Lysara was faster now, unpredictable. She ducked low, swept Kira's legs, twisted, and brought the butt of her rifle down in a shattering blow. Kira reeled, blood, brilliant blue, streaming down her arm. Another strike, a kick powered by the harness, and Kira crumpled, her weapons clattering away. Marcus, meanwhile, darted between support columns, drawing Voss deeper into the reactor's maze. He fired, forced Voss to take cover, lured him away from the controls. But Voss was cunning. He anticipated Marcus's next move, rising up to fire just as Marcus shifted behind a coolant tank. Plasma seared Marcus's arm, the pain white-hot, dropping him to one knee. "Marcus!" Lysara shouted, voice ragged with fear and rage. She saw him fall, saw the blood and the smoke. Something ancient and unstoppable ignited in her heart. Voss advanced, metal hand flexing, blaster ready. "She was always a liability," he jeered. "You really thought you could save her?" Lysara launched herself across the chamber, her speed inhuman. She crashed into Voss, driving him back with the force of the exo harness, her fist a blur. She hammered his face, flesh and chrome, until the cybernetic eye shattered in a shower of blue sparks. Voss howled, lashing out wildly, but Lysara did not let go. "Containment at 20%, Marcus gasped, teeth gritted as he forced himself upright, clutching his wounded arm. "Now or never, Lysara." Alarms crescendoed. The core at the heart of the chamber pulsed with unstable energy, containment fields flickering, steam venting in great hissing clouds. Panels buckled, light strobed from red to white. The room became a battlefield and a crucible, burning away everything but survival and love. Lysara released Voss with a final punishing blow. "We're done," she spat, voice shaking with fury and triumph. Marcus staggered to her side, blood seeping through his sleeve. "Emergency tunnels, this way," he barked, leading her toward a maintenance hatch as fire and steam erupted behind them. Voss's roar echoed through the chaos, a sound of rage and defeat. Kira lay motionless, smoke rising from her wounds. Voss struggled to his knees, half blind, reaching for a weapon he would never grasp in time. Marcus keyed the hatch and it sprang open. He shoved Lysara through first, then followed, sealing it behind them. The sound of the reactor's death throes shook the walls. Fire licked at the seams, steam filling the air, alarms fading behind a wall of steel. They stumbled through the tunnels, battered, breathless, the heat at their backs urging them forward. Lysara half-carried Marcus when his strength faltered, the exo harness humming encouragement. They did not stop, not even when the world behind them erupted in a final, thunderous roar. At last, the emergency shaft opened onto the outer ridge. The night air was cold, sharp, and clear. Far behind, the reactor chamber belched fire and smoke, the sky streaked with red. Marcus leaned against Lysara, breath ragged, arms slick with blood. She pressed her forehead to his, eyes bright with relief. "You saved us," she whispered. He managed a crooked smile. "We saved each other." Together, Marcus and Lysara escaped, battered but alive, racing toward freedom, the world's chaos fading behind them as they ran into the uncertain promise of dawn. The mining shaft stretched ahead, the station trembling behind them, echoing with the groans of settling metal and distant thunder from the dying reactor. Marcus stumbled, slumping against the rough wall, his breath coming ragged as blood seeped steadily from the wound in his arm. The harsh light from Lysara's exo harness flickered over him, the blue-white glow illuminating sweat and pain etched across his face. Lysara sealed the hatch behind them, hands steady despite the exhaustion threatening to drag her down. She knelt beside Marcus, the soft hiss of her suit harmonizing with the low rumble reverberating through the stone. "How's your arm?" she asked, voice gentle as she examined the injury. Her fingers, deft and light, moved across his skin. She cleaned the wound, improvising a bandage from what little they carried. Marcus winced, but when Lysara's touch lingered, just for a moment, a warmth beyond necessity, he looked up and caught her gaze. In that quiet, battered tunnel, their connection deepened, pain and tenderness weaving a new thread between them. Lysara's voice was a low confession. "I should have told you about the tracker." Marcus shook his head, brushing away a stray strand of her rose-pink hair with his thumb, his hand cupping her cheek. "You told me when it counted," he said, his words soft but certain, the truth plain in his eyes. "That's all that matters." The tunnel stilled, the world narrowing to the sound of their hearts and the distant rattle of the reactor's collapse. For a moment, there was peace, a rare and precious thing. Lysara's hands found the fastenings of Marcus's battered coat, her expression questioning, almost shy as she gestured to the rough floor. "Here?" she asked, her voice colored with hope and vulnerability. Marcus managed a lopsided grin, his eyes alight with mischief and longing. "I've had worse," he answered, drawing her closer, "but never with someone who mattered so much." They moved together in the hush of the tunnel, every touch magnified by the exo-harness's neural link. As the suit peeled away, Lysara's luminous blue skin glowed softly, painting Marcus's hands and lips with starlight. He pressed a kiss to her throat, his words a reverent whisper against her skin. "You're incredible." Their passion became a sanctuary, a place where broken things became whole, each caress a promise that what had been shattered could be remade. In that secret darkness, they found one another not as fugitives or soldiers, but as two souls clinging fiercely to hope. When it ended, they lay entangled, Lysara's head on Marcus's chest, his arm wrapped tight around her. She traced the lines of his hand, her voice a thread of worry. "Voss won't stop. He'll hunt us, hunt me, until he gets what he wants." Marcus tightened his embrace, his resolve burning brighter than pain. "Then we make sure he can't," he said. "We fight on our terms, together." Days blurred into one another deep in the mines, the world above forgotten. Lysara trained in the half-light, the exo-harness now an extension of her will. She ran, leaped, and fought, her movements growing surer, more powerful. Marcus watched her with pride, always nearby, his hands busy upgrading the suit, tweaking neural algorithms, reinforcing armor plates. Their laughter echoed in the tunnels, lighter and freer than it had been in years. One afternoon, as Lysara sparred against a training drone, a warning flashed across Marcus's terminal, an encrypted signal, a breach in their proximity sensors. Their hideout had been discovered. Marcus's jaw set. "Time to move," he called, already packing their tools. Lysara's eyes narrowed, not with fear, but with newfound resolve. She holstered her sidearm, every inch the warrior. "Let them come," she said. They were no longer prey. They slipped through access tunnels and abandoned conduits, emerging onto a forgotten orbital ring high above New Arcadia's surface. There, in the sterile glow of ancient machinery, Voss's hunter awaited, Tracker Unit 9, a hulking figure of alloy and artificial muscle. Its voice was a cold snarl, words more machine than flesh. The fight was brutal. Tracker 9's speed and strength matched Lysara's every move. Energy blades carved glowing arcs through the air. Metal screamed against metal as Lysara blocked and countered. Marcus flanked the hunter, drawing fire, using the station's shadows to his advantage. Sparks flew, air thick with ozone and fury. Tracker 9 lunged, pinning Lysara to the deck. Marcus shouted, hurling a power cell that exploded in a burst of light, blinding the hunter for a critical instant. Lysara seized her chance. She wrenched herself free, recalibrated the harness, and surged upward. In the darkness, she became invisible, silent, deadly. She struck from the shadows, disabling the station's power grid with a targeted burst. The room plunged into pitch black, only Lysara's eyes and the faint outline of her suit glowing. Tracker 9 swung blindly, but Lysara was already behind him, disabling his neural relay with a precise strike. The machine shuddered, then fell. Breathing hard, Marcus approached, scanning the wreckage. "Voss will know his hunter is gone," he warned. Lysara's gaze was fierce, her voice unyielding. "Let him come," she replied, eyes aglow. "We're ready." With the threat ended, Marcus and Lysara made their way to New Arcadia. On their new world, a gentle dusk painted the sky in violet and gold. Marcus stood on the balcony of their workshop, watching twin moons rise, his heart at peace for the first time in years. Below, lights twinkled from the settlement, where survivors rebuilt what war had tried to erase. Lysara emerged from the workshop, the exo-harness now elegant, every movement fluid and confident. She approached Marcus, the ease of her gait and the brightness of her smile a testament to all they had endured and become. The air between them was charged, their laughter genuine as they worked side by side, helping others restore lost technology and broken lives. One day, a delegation from the authorities arrived with an offer, an official contract to rebuild the orbital rings to lead a new era for the colony. Lisara read the datapad, then looked to Marcus, uncertainty flickering in her expression. "Are we ready for the spotlight?" she asked quietly. Marcus's hand found hers, steady and sure. "Voss is gone," he reminded her. "The wars are over. We can look ahead now." Lisara turned her palm in his, her voice soft but strong. "What does the future look like to you?" she asked, searching his eyes. Marcus smiled, tracing the lines of her hand. "It looks like this," he said, gesturing to the world outside, to their workshop, to the life they were building together. Lisara's smile was radiant, her answer a promise. Their kiss was gentle, unhurried, endless futures carried in its warmth. Marcus stepped back, producing a delicate neural circlet from his coat, a slender band of bioluminescent crystal, humming with potential. "Not a proposal," he said, voice rough with emotion, "but a bond. A way to share the link, deeper than words." Lisara's eyes filled with tears, her hands trembling as she accepted the gift. "You made this for us," she whispered. He pressed his forehead to hers. "I love you. Broken things that find each other should never be alone." With reverence, he placed the circlet on her head. In that instant, sensation surged between them, thought, feeling, heartbeat, and memory woven together, their minds and souls joined. Two lives, no longer fractured, but whole. Outside, the world spun on, history's wounds slowly healing. But in the workshop, surrounded by creation and hope, Marcus and Lisara had found home, a love that spanned the stars. Our story ends here. If you'd like to support us, you can use the Super Thanks button right under the video to leave a tip. It truly helps our team improve the quality of our work. We're grateful to each and every subscriber for being with us. Make sure you subscribe, press the like button, and tell us in the comments what stood out to you the most in this video. Your feedback means a lot to our team. You'll discover many more captivating stories on our channel. See you in the next one.